then, we'll be spending most of our time into the architecture and the framework of document understanding. And obviously, today's session is most of the time will be on the hands-on. So we'll be going into the entire series. We'll be building the document understanding framework right from the scratch so that, it will be very much helpful for you all. So document understanding, right? Uh, so the best way to put document understanding will be it is a technology, right, which combines few other technologies that will be able to give you an extraction result from your document, right? Now just to explain that sentence which I've just said, you can see on the diagram, the document understanding, it is an intersection of three other technologies. First and foremost, we have the document processing. So through which you'll be able to get the information from your documents, right? Now, traditionally, you have been doing this manually, right? You have a document with you. So by analyzing the document, by seeing the document, you are able to extract the fields out of it. And but that is not so much of desired way to do that. On the second pillar, we have the robotic process automation. Now with RPA, I think most of us will be familiar from this group of what is RPA. Through this technology, we'll be able to automatically uh, do an end-to-end execution of a repetitive task, right? One example will be, let's say you get an email, right? By analyzing the email, you want to store the document into some SharePoint. Now using RPA, you can build a bot that is capable enough to do that. On the third pillar, we have the artificial intelligence. Now, this is a very much mainstream technology, right, that we have right now. So I will just put it in a way that artificial intelligence is a way where your system is capable enough to make a smart decision. Let's say you're writing an email. So nowadays, when you write an email, you get some auto suggestion. Now, there is no human who is doing that behind the scenes, right? It is done by AI. It is done by machine learning algorithm behind the scenes. Now, your document understanding, it combines all of these three different technologies, right? Through which it is able to automatically extract your information from a given document. And using the RPA, it is doing the end-to-end execution automatically. And by leveraging the AI, it is able to work on the wide range of documents. Now, how we are able to do that in UiPath? It is a combination of multiple different products. Most of us are already familiar with the core component, Studio, Robots, and Orchestrator. Using Studio, you're able to develop your DU workflow. Using Orchestrator and Robots, you are able to schedule the DU workflows and also able to execute them. Then we have one more component called AI Center. So this is where you bring your machine learning models. You can leverage and optimize your existing out-of-box machine learning models given by UiPath for your different complex use cases. Then we have the third one, which is called Action Center. So basically, whenever you're dealing with something in your AI Center projects, right, there is always a trade-off where your model can make up some prediction, but it will may not 100% right. At that point, you may want a human to validate, to correct the response given by the machine learning model. So that's where you can bring the action center, where once the machine learning model has given you the output, you can send that to human to validate it using action center. So before we get right into the solution, it's very important to know about the basics, right? It's very important to know what are the documents and what are the different types of document we have. And this distinction is different, is completely different from your, native and your scanned PDF, correct? So native and scanned PDF, meaning that native documents are digital document in which you can select your text from your document directly. But in your scanned document, it is completely image based. You cannot directly select your contents from your PDF. It can be your handwritten documents. Those are actually a scanned document. But when we talk about the variations of a document, right, it can be either fitted into one of these three categories. At very first, we have a structural document. Structural document is nothing but in this document, the data and the place where the data is, it will be remaining constant. For example, you can see this form down below, the form 1040X document. So in this, if you look into the first name, it will be always there in this particular place itself. Similarly, if you're looking into the last name, it will be always there in this particular section. Meaning that the location of the fields that you're looking out for, it will be always the same. It will never change. And it can contain, your handwritten, your signatures, your check boxes. It can contain such complex data types as well. Whereas in case of a semi-structured document, here the variations can be quite large, right? And also the location where the fields are present, it can vary. The best example is your invoices. Now, depending on different vendors and different clients, they can have a different format of invoice, right? Let's consider invoice number. Invoice number can come in itself at different format, like invoice ID, invoice hash, invoice, just the word invoice. Or sometimes it can not have an invoice itself, it can have the number, and also the location of that, it can vary. Sometime it can come right in the header, right? Can sometime on the right hand side, sometime on the left hand side. So the idea, like the main thing here is the location can vary, but the meaning of those fields, let's say when I say invoice number, the meaning of that field will be constant. But in the case of unstructured document, it is completely a free form text, right? Let's consider your email. Unless your emails are kind of template based, everything will be a free form, right? And everyone has their own way of writing emails. And if you want to extract some information out of that, it is quite challenging. And when we talk about the approaches, when we talk about the solution, right? Uh, for this three type of document, it can be either fitted into your rule based or your model based approach. Now, your rule-based approach is simply saying that, hey, look up for this information at this particular section of your document, right? Hey, look up for this information after this keyword, meaning that you're building the rule and you're saying the robot to look into a specific place for getting that information, right? And when it comes to rule-based, you can write your regular expression. Since most of us are from a programming background, I believe everyone are aware of regular expression, what it is all about. So you can simply build a regular expression just to get the information out. One way of doing things. And the other way is using the form-based extractor of UiPath, wherein you can tell the robot, hey, look up for this information at this particular place, right? For example, in the given, earlier example of the form 1040X, I can simply say the robot, hey, look up for the first name in the given field. So whatever information that is available there, it will be treated as the first name. Okay. So, but in a given business case scenario, it's most likely that you'll be getting some documents which has lot many number of variations. Given the earlier example of invoices, correct? There can be different variations of the same document. At that point, if you can write a rule, it will be very much tedious, right? You have to write a rule for 100 different variations, and it can be a nightmare, right? Like you have to spend months of time just to write that rule. So instead of that, what we can do smartly is we can leverage the model-based approach. So in the model-based approach, we have the pre-built machine learning models, right? That is able to make the smart decision for you. So you just send the document to this machine learning model, and the machine learning model is trained on hundreds of thousands of the similar data set, and it will be able to get you a recommendation. It will be able to get your prediction of the given information that you're looking out for. Now, what is special about UiPath is, you can deal with any kind of this approach, rule-based and model-based, and even you can build your hybrid approach. You can build one single framework that is capable enough to handle both your rule-based and as well as your model-based approach. Now, we'll be spending quite a time into this framework, right? So this is the framework, and this is the diagram that is really, really important to understand what is document understanding framework. And yesterday, Mukesh, as did a great job in explaining all these steps one by one. But just to reiterate things, and for the people who are actually joining new. So first and foremost, let's say if you're writing any programming language, I mean, any code in your programming language, or you're building up your RPA workflow, what is the first thing that you do? You basically define your input argument. You basically define what are the variables that is required for a given process flow, right? Let's say you're doing your loan processing automation. You get all your input parameters and you store that in your config file, right? You define all the input arguments necessary for each particular sequence. I mean, irrespective of any things you're doing in your programming language, the first thing that you do is defining your variables and input arguments. Same in the case of document understanding framework as well. The way the taxonomy part, in the load taxonomy, it is a place where you'll be defining all the different document types you're dealing with and what all the fields you're looking out for from each documents, right? Let's say from the invoice, I want to extract the invoice number, the billing address, the total. I'll be defining a place, I'll be defining a schema where I can put down all these different document types. I can define all the fields I want to extract from invoices, right? So the first thing, you will be defining all your input variables, all your input schema for your document understanding framework. So that happens in your load taxonomy. Now, before you go ahead and extract your information out, right, you want to do some pre-processing. You want to read your document and convert that into a standard output, right? Now, what I mean by standard output, you want to read your entire document, right? And you want to convert, you want to extract the information out. And also you want to extract the metadata of the information that you're extracting. Why? Because after this pre-processing, using this data and as well as this metadata, you can classify the document. You can extract the information from that. So digitization is a pre-processing method or pre-processing step where you'll be reading your documents. Okay, we'll be extracting the content so that it is in a machine readable format, and also we'll be extracting the metadata of each particular information. Don't worry, guys. Right now, just get the conceptual part. We'll be getting into the demo in which you can understand all of these details, like the what the standard output, what that means, what this pre-processing step means, right? For now, just understand the conceptual part. And once you have done with the digitization process, right? Let's say you have built your entire workflow, and right now you're getting a new document, right? Let's say you build down your workflow for invoices and Form 1040X, and going forward, you will get a new document for receipt, right? So your framework needs to have a step where it can classify a new document that is coming up. It can identify what is this new document, and because based on that, you'll be doing your extraction, right? Because when it comes to extraction, you'll be having your different logic built up for each specific document. I can have a specific rule-based approach for dealing with some forms, whereas I'll be having a specific invoice ML-based approach if I'm dealing with invoices, correct? So whenever a new document comes up, it is very, very important for me to know what is the document type is. So that's where this classification step will come. So using this, whenever a new document comes, I'll be having some set of strategy in which I'll be able to figure out, okay, what is this document, right? On the next step is the extraction in which, I'll go forward, I'll be employing a different strategy and I'll be extracting the information out. And finally, with our last step, the information that we extracted, right, we'll be storing it into some place. Either I can store it into an Excel file, maybe I can store it in a database, or else I can put the information into a separate queue so that another process, another UI or automation process can take that information and can put it onto a different website, right? So complete end-to-end flow. Just now get the conceptual part, and I have missed two important steps, right? So basically, whenever we are dealing with classification and extraction, since these steps are done by the machines, there may be chances that the output are not 100% right. Since it is a machine, and machines, when it comes to whenever you are leveraging something like machine learning techniques, it works on predictions, right? And the predictions cannot be 100% true. It cannot be 100% accurate. At that point, you need to definitely have a human to validate that information, right? So at that point, what you can do is you can build your own post-processing techniques. You can have your post-processing logic, and you can say that if this logic is not met, I'll be sending out that into a human to validate, right? Let's suppose you have built an entire workflow and a new document is coming up, and the system is not 100% you know uh, accurate that it is an invoice. What I can do, if the system is not, let's say, 80% accurate that this is an invoice, I can send it out to a human so that it can validate that information, right? So validation happens at two different places. One is your classification. Whenever you're doing some classification, you can send it out to a human to classify if it is right. And the second part is your extraction. After extracting your information, let's say some of the fields are not at all available. Some of the fields are available, but it is not coming up with 100% accuracy. At that point, you can send it out to a human to validate them. I will take a quick pause over here. If anyone have any questions, they can put in the chat or they can just unmute and they can ask.
So I have a question here. So when we create a model, so each model actually will have a certain accuracy, right?
Yeah, no. So whenever you're creating machine learning models, right, it works on predictions, right? And whenever you're sending some document to model in order to extract or classify them, right, it will give you a prediction score. Like this document is likely to be an invoice. And using that confidence score, you can determine the level of prediction that the model is making.
Okay. So that will be based on the individual document, or when we are training the model, that time we can define that what is the accuracy of our model.
Uh, you may not implicitly define the accuracy of a machine learning model. It will be varying for each particular document cases, right? But you can always check the accuracy or how good the model is trained by running a evaluation pipeline, right? It will evaluate your model performance, like how good it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. And also, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to put that into the chat. If not me, Mukesh is there. Like we can always take up your questions, right? The main agenda or the main motive of this entire series is that your concept and your knowledge on document understanding should be very, very accurate at the end. So moving further, just why the validation is needed. I've already explained that. So now, by using this simple architectural flow, let us now revisit whatever we have learned. Let us understand whatever we have learned so far. So over here, I have three different documents. I have a receipt, which is likely a structural document, and I have a invoices and purchase order, which is a semi-structured document. There is a high variations to that, correct? Now later on, I have built a UiPath Studio process in which it is capable enough to download the attachment whenever it comes, right? And it sends out to a document understanding process wherein it first starts by loading the taxonomy, digitizing it, and it has a classification strategy in place where it is able to classify them and send it out into its respective extraction method. And in this case, it is a form. And so it is likely to go into a rule-based approach or a form-based approach. So it will go into the extraction method three, that is the form extractor. Okay. And here, you can leverage different techniques. You can go either with your rule-based approach, something like you can write a regex, or you can, come up with a form extractor. Now, once your extraction is complete, it is always a best practice to put down a post-processing or business rule to your workflow. Now, what that means is that, let's suppose you're dealing with some documents and certain fields are very much mandatory, like your invoice number, to whom the invoice are sent, it is very much mandatory, right? And if those information is not present, if the fields are actually null, then you can have a business logic to check if those fields are null, then send it out to a human to validate. That's where your post-processing logic you'll be building up. In this case, everything was good. Everything was went into a very happy path. All the business rule were met. All the post-processing criteria were actually met. So it actually went into a ERP system. We had an automated bot which was capable enough to take this information and put it out into a ERP system. Right now, this is also called as straight through processing (STP), which we call into document understanding. So whenever like a document, it directly goes into, I mean, all the information are very well extracted, and it directly gets into, the final stage. We call it as straight through processing. But whenever, it is sent to a human, we call it as human in the loop task. So on the second step, we got an invoice, and again, it went through all the different stages, and it directly landed into a machine learning extractor for invoices. And how the machine learning actually works in UiPath. Basically, it leverages the something called ML skill. Now, ML skill, it is very much specific to a given use case, right? To a given model. So in this case, I have used the invoice ML skill, and the invoice ML skill, it has been hosted and it has been trained on your AI center. And I'll be getting into all of this into our demo. But once you have done with all your data labeling, with all your training, finally you get your ML skill. And using that ML skill, you are able to extract the information out from your documents. Now, once this step is done, it directly gets into the post processing, and in the post processing, it has been notified that some of the business rule didn't met. So it will create a task for a human to validate that information, right? And while it is sent out to human to validate, our documented understanding process, it is so flexible that it will take up the next process, it will take up the next document, it will process it, it had put down the required extractor, and all the information were extracted, and finally the resulted information got landed up into your ERP system. And once a human has validated that information, it will directly get into your downstream application.
What if
And
this human is not validated? Like uh, one invoice is not completely validated by human, but it has had some validation error.
mhm, yeah,
Then what it?
very good question. So let's say a document comes up, but it is actually a very much some kind of false document, and the human can always raise an exception. You get an exception button where you can always raise an exception. By that, it will be treated as your exceptional cases, and accordingly you can have your downstream logic built up to handle that case.
Okay.
Okay. And as a last and one important step, since it is sent out to a human, right, whatever the human is updating or correcting it, right, it will be used for training your machine learning model, so that over the time your machine learning model gets smarter enough.
I had a question.
Yeah, carry on.
So basically, what happens if it doesn't send it to human validation? Like there are some wrong fields which are present, but the confidence level is very high. Then what will happen?
Yeah, so this is where going back, so this is where you'll be not only checking your confidence level, but also you'll be putting up some post processing logic in place, right? You can check the, let's say if you are doing some total, right, you can check that versus with the actual line items you are getting. We can sum it up and you can match them, right? So such post processing logics you can build up, so that you're not only relying on the confidence, but also you're employing your own strategy.
Okay.
Yeah, if anyone have any questions, they can just put that in the chat, or they can just unmute, because after this we'll be directly getting on to a demo.
So, sorry, hi, this is Tarun this side. I have one question.
Yeah.
So, we are using ML skill because I believe you don't want to train for invoices specifically, right? Unless otherwise, if I have standard invoice formats, I can train and I might not use an ML skill over there, right? Is that correct?
So you can either go with two ways, right? Whenever you're dealing with some uh, machine learning models, you can go with the out of box model that is already present in UiPath, right? At that point, you don't need to have a machine learning, I mean, ML skill itself. You can leverage the endpoint of the invoices of the invoice ML model. But let's say if I want to customize that model, because the invoice ML model, let's say it is giving you 19 different fields, but you want to look up for a different field, which it is not there inbuilt. At that point, you can customize that out of box model. You can train your, documents with that. At that point, you need to leverage your ML skill.
Okay, so if I am not using ML skill, then I will use that endpoint. Still, I will be using that endpoint.
Yes.
What if I have, let's say, around 10 formats which are standard every time, not changing? I can go ahead without using that endpoint as well, right? Is that correct, or am I wrong there?
Okay, so whenever you're dealing with a model-based approach, okay, I'm not talking about a rule or template. Whenever you're dealing with a model-based approach in UiPath, either you need to give your endpoint, or either you need to, put a ML skill. That's how it is work.
Or I can go ahead with the template-based approach.
Yeah, yeah. You can go ahead and you can write 10 different templates.
Yeah, okay.
You can do that. But that will be not a kind of scalable approach, because let's say if on a future two more document types comes, five more document types come, you need to create those templates, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Understood.
Mhm.
Sorry, one more, sorry, one more question. I guess
Yep.
I missed that part. What about this split? How are we doing the splitting of pages if all of this comes into one package? I'm not sure if that was discussed and I missed that earlier.
Yeah, I purposely left that so that I can show that into a demo.
Oh,
But your document understanding, it is capable enough to split your document as well. Because likely in your business case scenario, you may have a one single PDF, and in that you can contain different documents, right?
correct. It
So you
comes as a
need,
package usually.
yeah. So you need to have an ability where it can split and it can classify. So we have an ability through which you can split your document and rightfully classify it.
So I believe the classification will take I mean, classification will be done first and then splitting will happen, right? Based on the classification.
Yeah, so both of them happens in tandem. So
Okay.
whenever a document comes, so using the intelligent keyword classify, it will be able to know, what are the different document. I mean, it will classify it and accordingly it will split it out.
So it's one activity, you mean, in
Yeah,
the.
yes, it's one activity that will take care of both of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. So next we can delve into the part which we were waiting for a long time is get into this document understanding through a practical demo. So on the screen, I believe you can see a UiPath Studio process, right? Is it visible for everyone?
We know we still
No,
see your presentation PPT.
we
No,
can
only
still.
presentation you can see.
Okay, thank you. I stopped it, reshared it again.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, good. So on the screen, you can see a document understanding studio template, right? And this studio template is basically a framework. I think most of us must be aware of RE framework, right? Why we need to have a RE framework? Basically, it gives you some standard governance and best practices that is already inbuilt. Similarly, in document understanding, we also have a framework that contains all the governance and the best practices uh, pre-built for you. But as part of our today's demo, I'll be starting right from the scratch so that you can know all these topics, all these different activities very well. Right? So I'll be starting off with the new UiPath Studio process. And as part of our today's session, we'll be solving uh, three different documents. We'll be solving this form 1040X. The meanwhile, let me go ahead and create one document understanding process.
Can you share those documents in chat? Right. Means we are also trying with you.
Yeah, I will recommend, if you can just follow me along while I'm doing this. And later on, I'll be sharing all these documents with you all so that you can practice it.
Okay.
Right? This is not a framework, right? So once you've created a process, the next thing is you have to search for this intelligent OCR activity and you need to install it. Right into this demo, I'm using 6.14.1. Yeah, so while it is installing, let me show you the different documents we have for today's demo. At very first, we have this form 1040X. And if you can see this 1040X, it is very much structured, right? How I got to know? Let's suppose I'm using the different variations of this document. You can see this, right? All the forms here are completely structured. Only the information in the different places it is getting changed. Rest everything is, is the same. So Form 1040X is actually a income tax form that is used by the US citizens. So this is a structural document, and we'll be using the form-based extractor in order to extract the information out. And the next thing we have here is the damage report. So we have a vehicle damage report, and if you see this one, it is also a structural document. If you look up for a different variation, the information, I mean, the place where it is present, it will be all be the same. Then we have an invoice. Okay, one of the invoices I'm showing on the screen, but we are dealing with invoices which has 30 different variations. And so there are 30 different invoices, and each invoices has a different structure, different layout. Okay, so let me check if the package got installed. Yes. So what was the first step of your document understanding framework? Anyone, anyone can say, or you can put down.
Installing, I mean, taxonomy.
Taxonomy.
What are tax?
Creating taxonomy.
Taxonomy.
Create a group first.
Perfect. So first, we'll be loading our taxonomy. Okay. And for creating our entire schema, I was talking about we will be having a place where you can define your document types, where you can create different fields. So it comes up in your taxonomy manager. So your taxonomy manager, you can directly get ahead and create your document type, and you can define the fields, or else you can go with the group by option. Now this group by option, it is analogy to your folder structure, right? Why you have a folder structure in place? So that you can maintain your information in a very much structural and a hierarchical format. So similarly, here you can create different groups, and inside the groups you can create some subcategories, and inside the subcategories you can put up your documents, right? So let me create one group called IRS, and inside the IRS I can create one category, and I can call it as forms. Okay. Now this is similar to your folder, right? The category, it is similar to your subfolder. Now inside your subfolder, you can go ahead and you can define your document type. So first thing what we are dealing with is the form 40x. So I'll be creating a document for form 40x. Now once this is created, the next thing is you can get ahead and you can define the different fields you want to extract. Along with that, what is the data type of those fields, right? And in this, I'm very much interested to extract the first name, the middle name, and also this information, which particular year got tick mark. And finally, I'll be extracting the signature, if the signature is present here, and also the date. Okay. So let us create that. First name, the data type, I can keep it as text. Similarly, last name. And one thing here, let's suppose I want to, make sure which particular item got tick mark here, right? How I can do that? Because all these are actually checkboxes. So here,
Use,
Mhm.
Using a set type.
Yeah, here what I can do is I can create different fields for each one of them, and I can just check if a tick mark is there or not, right? I can just check if the tick mark is there, then it will be a Boolean value. It will give me result as true. If it is not there, it will give me a Boolean value result as false. So here I'll be creating, let's suppose for 2018, if 2018 is present, I'll mark the field type as Boolean. Like if it is having a tick mark, then it will give me a result as true.
Vinod, sorry to interrupt here. So if you are defining the field types here. If you are not sure about the field type or how it works, like if you just consider studio, we can use a generic variable. Here, how can I define these things if I could see only 7 to 6 field types are available?
Yeah. So for that, let's suppose you're dealing with such information like first name, last name, right? You're confident that it will be a text.
Yeah.
But when it comes to phone number, Some cases, it may not be always number. Sometimes it can have a hyphen in between, right? At that point, it can be a text. No? But
Okay.
in this case, where you're dealing with something like a checkbox. So in checkbox, what you're checking, if the information, I mean, if the user has selected that checkbox or not. How you make sure if this item is selected? By having a boolean. If it is selected, it will give you a true, otherwise it will give you a false.
Yeah, I can understand. Just consider you are using a country code +91 and you're just giving some number. You have some space, you have plus and some other special characters you have in this particular thing. If I just click on this field type as number, it will be throwing an error or it will be extracting the data. That's my question.
It will be expecting that data.
Okay.
If that is not a checkbox, how it's going to detect?
For example, this particular item, if it is not a checkbox, right? It will just take up whatever values that is there inside this particular checkbox, right? And in this case, I mean, you may be not sure what is the information that it will give.
No, if the checkbox is not present, they are just expecting a tick mark, but no checkbox.
Can you give one more example to that, please?
Let's say
Maybe we know I can answer that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mukesh.
So who's that? Sorry, I didn't get your name. Okay.
Fine.
So yeah. So you see, the idea here, what Vino is trying to do with the checkbox or any other tick mark, right? So you are saying that, hey, there is no box, but there is a single tick mark, right? So the idea is simple, right? You have to ask yourself, what is the information I am interested in? So for this example, let's say we are interested where exactly the tick mark is there. So the tick mark here is for 2018. Let's say this entire box is not there. So where is that tick mark? What is the information you are looking for? Let's say you are looking for a gender, which is male, right? So then in the field on the extraction, you will create that is the gender present as male, and that would be Boolean, right? So that way. So you don't necessarily need to have that box there, but as a user, you need to know, right, that what is the information where that tick is there, right?
Yeah.
Does that answer? Okay, great. Over to you, Vinu.
Maybe yeah,
Uh,
because I wanted to know, like people will put as a male, a female, or married or unmarried. So the check marks might be anywhere, right? So how that can be done? I'll see. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe in a later part of demo where I'm showing you how I'm creating a form template. At that point, maybe it can help you.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks.
Okay.
I
Hi.
have a question. How to deal with the radio button if we have a radio type of form? Like how can we deal that?
Similarly, either in your radio button, they will be selecting it or not selecting it right now. So you can create a same as a Boolean type.
Okay.
And going forward, while I'm showing you how I'm creating a form template, I think it will make more sense of, how this actually is coming up into. So yeah, let's, proceed further. So right now I've defined my taxonomy layout for this particular form. And once it is defined, what is the next step that comes into is a digitization. Now, before I get into digitization, I have to tell my workflow what is the document I'm dealing with, right? So for that, let me load up the dependencies here. I'll be creating some variables here. First, I'll be creating one variable for folder path. Another one which will give me all the list of files that is there inside this particular folder, right? So I'll be creating an array of all the file paths. And I hope, everyone here are having a kind of foundational knowledge on UI path, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm just creating the variables and I'm declaring the data types. So I'm using this particular folder. I can hard code it here. And if I want to get all the files inside one particular folder, I can simply go with directory.get files. And here I need to give the folder path. Now, once this is done, I can put down a for each loop to iterate through the list of files I have. Let me just put a simple log message, which I can just print what is the file path that is coming up. Let us run this workflow. Okay, good. So it was able to get up all the different documents that was there inside the particular folder. Right? Now let us get ahead with our next step that we have is the digitization. So let's search for digitize and put it up here. And for the digitize work, all you have to give is the file path. Okay. And here it gives you two different output. One is your document text and one is the document object model. Now this was the standard output that I was talking about. Let us quickly create a variables for this and we can see what is the information that is present inside this variables. Okay. And also if you have noticed here, it all, it comes up with the UiPath document OCR by default. Now, as a RPA developer, you get, your option of choice where you can put on your OCR engine of your choice, right? But for today's demo, we can get ahead with document OCR. And also, if you have noticed, if you have connected to your right tenant, it will come up. I mean, it will give you the API key automatically, right? But in this case, I'll be using my different API that I have. So I'll be creating a variable for that. Currently, I'm hard coding things, but when it comes to your enterprise, you'll be leveraging the document understanding studio process template. Yeah. So once I'm done with that, I can simply put the DU key here. Okay. So far, I was able to configure all the required parameters. Here, I just want to, emphasize only on one property that we have, apply OCR on PDF. And if you see, we have three different options, auto, yes, and no. So basically what this signifies, let's suppose your document, it can be native, it can be scanned. There can be a chances there, your first document, I mean, your first page, it is native, second page, it is a scanned document. So when you set to auto, your digitize, it is so smart enough that it will extract the first page as a digital content. It will not apply a OCR on that, but on the second page, it will apply your OCR, right? So this will be helpful in terms of your execution time because OCR comparatively, it will take up a bit more processing time. Okay. So when that is done, I'll put a breakpoint here. Now I'll execute this workflow and I will show you what is the information that is there inside the doc test and document object model. Okay. While it is running, one question from Parvati, what is the degree of parallelism? So degree of parallelism, it indicates like in your given set of PDF, how many document it can process at a given time, right? And when you set it to -1, it will go up with the maximum documents that your processor can handle. You know, uh, it will vary for each particular operating system and the processor that is there behind the scene. Now, how many threads it is using, things like that. Uh, but to have it on a very abstract level, it will take up the number of documents it can process manually, and it will, apply the digitization and OCR parallelly on those number of documents. Hope that answers your question.
Is that the same for the unattended as well? Like, is that applicable to the unattended as well?
Yeah, it applies for either one of them, attended or unattended, because the digitized document, it will be same for both of them.
Oh. Thank
Yeah. So we can check what is there inside the doc text. And right now we are dealing with the form 1040X, right? So if you can see the doc text, it contains nothing but all the information that was there inside my 1040X into a digitally formatted text, right? I can open up the form 1040X for you all. So all the information that was there here.
Actually, where you created this doc text and doc dom, from where it is getting the output?
Yeah, from your digitized document activity. It gives
Okay.
you two output. One is your doc text, which is nothing but all the information in a digital formatted way. And another is a document object model, which I'll be showing you right now. So if you see the doc DOM, what it basically contains, all the
Structure.
words. Yeah, it contains all the words that is there inside your given document. Along with that, it will contain some metadata, right? Now, what is that metadata? Let me show that to you. Let's suppose I take this example, okay? So this is for a text called 2019, right? For that, this is all the metadata, right? So it actually gives you the coordinates relative to entire document where it is present, right? And also, if you notice, it will also give you the index position of where this text is located out of all the document text that you're getting above, right? So this is basically helpful for your next steps, for your classification and as well as extraction, right? And while you are eventually proceeding, you will actually notice that, okay? So just two takeaways here. Your digitized document will give you two different output, which is document text, which is nothing but all the information of your document in a digital format. And the next is the document object model. It will contain uh, all the different words that is there in your document. Along with that, some other metadata. Okay. And all this information, it is very much useful for classifying as well as extracting your information. Okay. So far, we have completed the digitization. Now, some other steps remaining, that is classification. Now, before we proceed with the classification, I will show you, I will spend some time in telling you what happens behind the scenes, right? So let's suppose you have built up your entire workflow, right? Any new document comes up, so you want to make sure that this is a form 1040X or this is an invoice. How you actually go about that? You check a particular keyword. Let's suppose in this form 1040X, if this amended keyword is there, right? And if I go to this damage report, this amended keyword is not there, then can I say that if whenever an amended keyword comes, it should be categorized as 1040X, right? I can say that, right? But in order to gain more confidence, what I can do more is, instead of relying with only one single keyword, I can rely with some collections of keywords, right? I can go with all this kind of keywords that is there, right? I can even go for some other keywords that is very much uniquely present in this document, right? And if those collection of keywords are there, then I can rightfully say that this is a form 1040X document. Same approach goes for my vehicle damage report, right? I can identify those unique collection of keywords, and if those keywords are there, then classify that as so and so document. So that is the approach, that has been followed in the classification. So coming back to the UiPath Studio workflow, and you search for classify, you get all these activities, right? Let me put down the classification document scope. And this is a container activity, similar to what you have in open browser or attached browser. This container activity serves as your, container for your subsequent child activities, right? So let me go ahead and quickly configure all these input parameters. So these input parameters are nothing but output from the previous steps. For example, output from my taxonomy, right? Let me store it into a variable. Copy it. This is from my classification. And also this document object model from my classification. Sorry, from my digitize activity. And the output of my this classified document will be a classification result. So inside this, just ignore the trainer for now. You can see there are two different type of classifier available. You have your keyword based classifier, you have your intelligent keyword based classifier, and we'll be getting into that what this actually does. So first, let me put the intelligent keyword classifier. And if you notice here in the intelligent keyword classifier, it has an endpoint and it has an API key. So in the endpoint, basically there is a machine learning model which is capable enough to go through, get this input from this earlier steps like document text and document object model, and through which with the collection of your keywords that you define, it is able to say that this is your so and so document, right? And in order to make this work, you have to give your learning files. You have to say what are the different keywords you have to look up for, right? And the intelligent keyword classifier, provided you give a document, it will automatically identify the keyword that is necessary for it to classify, right? So in order to do this, let me open my project directory, and here I'll be storing up a JSON file. Copy this file path, save as .json. So all I'm doing right now is just creating a blank JSON file. That's it. Okay. And I will close it. As the next thing,
In which folder we have to create that JSON?
in your project directory, the recommended is the document processing, but it can be anywhere in your project root directory. Okay.
Okay.
But whatever it is, you have to give your file path here. Okay.
Okay.
For a classification, you need to do this, but for your taxonomy, it is very much mandatory that you store your taxonomy into this document processing file, into this folder. If this folder is not there, you will get an exception, because if you notice here, there is no input, right? It is by default looking into your document processing and under that taxonomy.json. Once this is done, how you actually define your keyword classifier, your intelligent keyword classifier, you click on manage learning, and here you have to provide your sample data set for form 1040x. Okay. So you click on start training, right? And here you have to select your sample data sets. So in my case, I have all the sample data set of form 1040x here. Okay, I'll be selecting all of them and start training. Yeah, some of the questions from the chat. Metadata, will it be for all the words? Yes. For all the words that is given in your document, maybe it can be of one single character, right? You will get a metadata for all of them. Then why we need to have a document object model? The answer is for your classification and for your extraction. In order for them to work, you need to have those into, document object model. Yes. So right now what it did, it picked up all the keywords that was required to classify a given document as a form 1040x. And if you have noticed here, I've not defined any of these keywords. I've just selected all the different format of form 1040x and it got all this keyword automatically. Okay. And one final step, I have to configure this 1040x to use the intelligent keyword classifier.
Sorry, I have a question here. My name is Tanvi Gupta. So here you have put it down the API key
Yeah.
into the classifier.
Yeah.
And but before previously you have taken your own API key. So so we have to change. We have to replace this API key as the same which you have taken previously, or by default it will remain the same.
Yeah. By default, whenever I drag and drop to this interface, right, it will pick up the API key that is coming from the given tenant, right? But in my case, obviously, since I'm using a different API key, I need to provide that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Vinu, hello.
Yeah.
Why do we use that endpoint?
So yeah, basically here we are dealing with the intelligent keyword classifier, right? And whenever you're dealing with a machine learning model, you need to give an endpoint of where that machine learning model is located, right? So basically in this case, the machine learning model, it has been hosted in this particular URL. Right? So on the runtime, what basically happens, it will query up this machine learning model that is there inside this endpoint, and it will get me the prediction out, right?
Okay.
And yeah, proceeding further, now I'll be putting up a present classification station just to check if all the things are working perfectly fine. And if you can notice, all the inputs of a particular activities are actually the output from the previous steps, right? I'm not doing nothing but just configuring the input variables. Okay, let us run this workflow. Yeah, the execution started. Click continue. Yeah, so this is the classification station. So basically, I was talking about human in the loop, right? Like whenever you want, you can build up a logic and you can bring up a task for human to validate. So this is one of them. So here I've not built any rule. I've directly put up a classification station and this is how it will look like. But right now, my model is 100% certain that this particular document is a form 1040x, right? And it was able to do that by using that intelligent keyword classifier. Okay. So next we will proceed ahead. Our most important step, that is our extraction, right? And here, since it is a structural document, we'll be employing the form-based extractor. I will show you of how you can create a form template and how it is basically able to extract things. Okay. So let us create a new sequence. And we can call it as extraction.
And how we are ensuring that the checkbox is checked or not?
Yeah, I will show you right now. And similar to the classification, here also we have a container for extraction. Okay. And in this will be, so guys, you're actually not permitted to record this on your local. Right? All these recordings will be available in your in our community website. Okay, so proceeding from
Muni was handling something with documents also available, no?
Yeah, I will share these documents.
Okay. I have one doubt. This is the your create normally flow, right? You are not using in any framework, right?
Yeah. So the idea is just to show you the different activities, how it is working, and then later on I will show you the actual framework.
Because actually it, okay. Yeah, actually yeah, okay, thank you. This is not there as per my knowledge. Or recently this such the first.
Thank you. And also, just to show you one more step actually. I have a question for all of you. You can just put up your thoughts. So I have this one single document, right? It contains Form 1040X. Also, it contains the vehicle damage report. And after the vehicle damage report, it contains all the Form 1040X. Now, the question is, if I just run this document with our current activities, will it be able to split the document? Will it be able to give the splitted of all the 1040X document?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it will split.
Yes. Why so?
We have given
You
that.
have object one is there, no? So there it will split. If you go to the studio, we have an object one. So that will, yeah, our document object model that will split that one, I guess.
Intelligent keyword classifier has an inbuilt split option.
Yes. So was it Apurva, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Apurva. You're right. So using this intelligent keyword classifier, it has a capability to split your document as well, right? Now let us just see how it is possible. Let us run this document. What I'll be doing is I'll be copying this document over our input folder. I'll comment this activity for now. Let us see that. Since it contains multiple pages, it will take up a bit more time for digitizing. Okay, one of the question, where are we checking confidence score? So currently we are not checking confidence score, but you can always put up a logic where you can check the confidence score, and according to that you can put up a task for human validation. So proceeding further with this. Yeah, if you will notice here, page number 1 and page number 2 was a Form 1040X. For that, it was able to 100% get that it was a Form 1040X. And also down below, right, there were some Form 1040X documents, right? For that also, if you see down here, it was able to pick them up as 100% as Form 1040X. But for the vehicle damage report, maybe there were some fields that were overlapped. Because of that, it was 62% certain that it was a Form 1040X, but in actual, it is not a Form 1040X, right? For now, I can just make it as not classified. Okay. So also one more takeaway from what we saw right now, that a single document can contain multiple classifications, right? For instance, in this example, there were two 1040X documents, right? And if I want to build up an extraction for, you know, for such cases, I need to iterate through something, right? So that's why if you observe this classification result, the data type of this classification result, it is an array of your classification result, right? It is a collection of all the classification result that is coming up from your classifier, right? Why this happened? Because your classifier or single document can contain multiple different documents. That is the reason why we have an array. Now, in order to extract things out of array, what we do, we put a loop. So similarly, here also we'll be putting a for each loop. We will have a for each loop, in this case on the validated classification result. Okay. And I will call this as classification result. Okay. So right now we are into the extraction part. For now, we will use the form-based extractor. So again, if you search for extractor, you will see the different type of extractor that you have. Okay. For using the machine learning extractor, we need to install a separate package. I will get into that in some time. But for now, let's get ahead with the form-based extractor, right? And again, the form.
Hello. Actually, I had a question. Sorry to interrupt you in between.
Yeah, this is
Uh, the question was basically that I am not able to get that. We didn't mention anywhere the keyword that it should be looking for. So how we are able to separate those files? I'm not getting that particular part.
yeah. So going back to the classification. Okay. So for your classification, there are two ways where you can do classification, right? Using intelligent keyword classifier or your normal classifier, right? So when it comes to normal classifier, you have to give your own set of keywords. Like you have to manually do that. But when it comes to intelligent keyword classifier, it automatically does. All you have to do is provide the list of documents, provide the list of similar documents. Okay, that's it.
Okay. Okay, so if there are seven types of files present in one document only, so this will be able to classify and segregate them. Like, okay, this is one 1040x form, this is the another one 1040x form, like that.
Yes. Yeah, the splitting capability, it is only available until into this intelligent keyword classifier.
Okay, okay,
If
okay.
you use the keyword based classifier, it will not able to split them. It will
Okay,
treat all the single, one PDF as the same document in that case, right?
okay, got it. Thank
That
you.
comes inbuilt.
Okay.
Okay. So coming up with the form extractor, uh, you have to get started by creating a template for our form 1040X, right? So let us start creating a template. Click on this create template, select your document type, and you can give a name of your template. You need to select a given document. Since all the document format is same, we can use any one of them. I will explain this instruction to you all. So first and foremost, you have to give a set of keywords through which you can identify if a give, what is the page one of a document, what is a page two, page three, so forth, right? So here you can how you can do that is you can just select, you can go take up your mouse cursor, you can select all the list of keywords, right? And you can click on this token, and if you notice when I clicked on the token, this to turn into blue, right? So I will make this all the keywords to go into the page one, right? If the set of keywords comes up into, in a given page, it will be classified as a page one of the form 1040X. Similarly, for the page two, I can go with some set of keywords. Now, if you want to select multiple of those keywords, what you can do is click on control. By holding the control, you can select multiple one of them. So at least you need to give like 5 keywords for a given page. Okay.
I have a question here. In the second page, if we are not getting the unique values, like you are selecting the keywords, right, for the matching info. So if you are if that second page does not contain any unique values, so on the time what we have to do?
Okay. So this again goes back to your analysis, right? For a given document, at least you will be having, some set of values that will be unique. I mean, when it comes to, because right now we are dealing with your structural document. When it comes to semi-structured document, it is completely okay. You don't need to look up for some specific keywords. But since we are dealing with structural document, we are quite sure, right, that the information will be quite distinct when it comes to different pages. At least you need to have that 5 set of keywords through which you can uniquely define them.
Okay.
Right? If not, you can employ a different strategy altogether, right? You can treat the other page as your form 1040X part 2 of your document, and you can employ a different classification for that. I mean, if there is no such overlaps.
Okay, actually, I have a scenario like this. I don't have the any unique values in the second page. So the table is extended from first page to the second page also. So it is quite difficult to me to identify that one. And also that form extraction is asking about the second page unique values. So that's the reason I just asked.
Okay. So going forward, let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So the first name here, no, I'm 100% sure that it will be present within this particular given area. So I'll be tagging this for first name. Similarly for last name, I'll be taking up this entire area. Yeah, right now for the checkboxes, right, I'll be doing the same thing. For the return 2018, what I have to do is I have to select this particular checkbox, right, going with the custom area, and I'll be tagging that for 2018. So if any particular tick mark is there or if that particular area is selected, this one will give me a Boolean value that is true. Okay. And while this is in execution, I will show you, of how it is happening. Similarly for 2018 checkbox also.
So we know one question from my side. Sorry to interrupt. So if there is 10 checkbox, we need to select every 10 checkbox area, na?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Similarly, we'll be doing that for signature as well. and finally for date. So this is how you create your templates for your form-based extractors. Okay. And finally, everything is done. You click on submit. And here you can highlight what is your signature field, one optional step that you want to do if you're dealing with signatures, right? And here you can add this recommended. So basically, if if these things are there in your particular checkbox, it will give your boolean as true. If there is nothing or if it is no, it will give you boolean as false. Specifically when it comes to checkboxes and radio buttons. Okay. And once everything is done, one final step that you tell uh, your container, your data extraction scope to look up for the form-based extractor for your form 1040x. That's it. Finally, in order to make sure the information that we are getting is right, I'll be putting up a validation station. Configuring all these input parameters. Okay, let us run this workflow now. Okay, document object model was not supplied. So it will go to that routine step. First, loading the taxonomy, then digitizing, then classification. Right now, we have put down a new step for extraction, and we will see how good my extraction is performing. So until then, if anyone has any questions, we can take it up.
One question from my side. Just consider this form extractor here provided the different API key. So how does it work? So you have defined an API key before, and you're using a different API key here. How it works?
So yeah, so basically why we need to have that API key, let us understand that. So whenever you're leveraging some machine learning model in your document understanding framework, continue this. So yeah, whenever you are utilizing your document ML models in your document understanding framework, you take up some AI units for consumption because that's how the licensing models work, right?
Yeah.
And each particular API key is associated with a given tenant, right? So whenever you're using API key, you're consuming the AI units of that given tenant, right?
Okay.
So the main point here is whatever API key you're using, it needs to have enough credits in order to use it.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay.
Apart from this UiPath API key, can we use any other API keys which are available on Google?
So for your classifying and extraction, all those things, right? You need to use specifically a DU API key, and that is very much unique for a given tenant. But if you're using a OCR, while digitize, I was showing you one UiPath document OCR, right? If instead of that you want to use Azure Cloud Vision or some Google OCR, right? At that point, you have to use those API keys or given by that OCR engines.
Okay.
So right now we are into the extraction part, and you can see all the information where correctly extracted. The first step is right, the last step is right, and with the checkboxes, right? Here 2018 is selected. For that reason, if you can see, for 2018 the Boolean value is true. For 2019 it is false, right? And for signature, if you can see, there is a signature present, and also the date. It was a kind of handwritten date, but you can see it was extracted properly. And you can also see that how quickly and how easy it was to build everything. It just took some time for me, right?
One more doubt from my end, Vinod. So, like we are providing this anchors in Studio, can we also provide any anchors like here if it is signature? So automatically the extractor will go and fetch that signature nearby that. It is possible here, providing any anchors.
Yeah, in your form-based extractor, yeah, it is possible to provide anchors. Yeah,
Okay.
but when it comes to your ML models, yeah, there is no concept of anchors there. Directly goes with the prediction of and the training that you're doing, right?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. So far, what we learned is the complete DU framework, right? Till the extraction part, right from how you need to digitize your document, how you can classify your document, then what are the different strategies of extracting, right? Now, one final step that is pending in my entire DU framework is the export. It is to take this information that I'm getting from this entire workflow and put it into somewhere. So as part of today's demo, let us take all this information that we're getting and put that into one Excel file. For doing that, search for export, and you'll be getting this option called export extraction result. Okay. Now the input of this will be the output from the previous step. So I'll be using the validated extraction results, and I'll be creating one data set variable. And a data set is nothing but a collection of your data tables, right? And if you see here in the properties, you get an option to if you want to include the confidence of your extraction. So basically what it will give you is all the feed level confidence. Okay. And there are two type of confidence you can see here, right? One is the confidence from that given extractor itself, right? And the other confidence is the OCR confidence. Now this comes from your digitized document. Like from an OCR level, how much confidence or how much certain the framework is regarding a given information. Okay. I will leave it blank for now. And finally, what I'll be doing is I'll be iterating to this data set. So I'll be again putting a for each loop. Here the argument type is of data table. And finally, right range just to put everything into one Excel file. So right range workbook. I will give the name as export underscore the name of the file. In order to get the name of the file, I can use directory.get file name without extension, file path. And finally, I have to put the Excel extension. Sheet name, I can go with the table name that is coming up. So table name will give me the current table name. And finally, the data table. I'll also make sure that I am including headers in my result. Okay. By this, my entire framework of
What
document
is that
understanding is built.
dot table name? Table dot table.
So it will give me the table name basically.
Means here table is the variable or table name is the variable?
Table is my data type, which is of type data table, data table in C#.
Okay.
and each table will contain some name, right? It will give me that table name.
Okay. Means yesterday I had some question like, can we add workbook sheet name with today's date? Means whenever I run the flow, I should get the today's date of the sheet name. Sheet name.
In the sheet name, you need to get your date time, right? Yeah, obviously you can do that. You need to put that parsing actually. So if you do date time dot now, right, you can get the current system date time.
Okay, directly means no need of creating variable and passing it here.
Yeah, you can directly do.
Yeah, it threw some error, I guess, when I use this date time dot now in this field near this table dot table name. It threw some error, I feel.
I
Use
think
dot to
that is
string.
because when you say date time dot now, right, it would have colon and those space, sorry, the colon and the special character in the date. So you need to
Yes,
remove them
same error.
and you need to replace them with underscore, right? Because Excel sheet name cannot contain special characters.
Yes, the same error I got. Can you
Yeah.
please show me that how to modify that, please?
Okay,
And
I'll post the syntax in the chat.
Okay.
and also I believe there is some limitation with the sheet name. You need to put at least 30, not more than 30 characters.
30 characters, correct.
Yeah.
Right. Good. We have very good developers. We are safe. So couple of other things, I can quickly show it up is, how you can build a regex-based extractor. So for regex-based extractor, for my vehicle damage report, right? Let me get ahead and create that schema in my taxonomy manager.
Could you please pause for 2 minutes? I'm sorry.
Sorry, who is it?
Amit Kumar.
Oh yeah,
Please pause for 2 minutes. I'll be back soon.
yeah. We can take a 1 minute break, and in the meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can obviously put it up. We can take it up, right? If anyone has anything.
I have a one question. So during export scope, you have put it down that if in a case we have put it click on the checkbox, the confidence we are getting, like include
Yeah.
confidence, and these values should we are will would be we get as an output, like whatever Excel file we have write it down.
Mm-hmm.
So these value we can after designing the logic behind these values, we can put it down this if we are getting that much confidence level. So according to that, our document will processed or something like that. We can put it down that logic according to those values or somewhere else.
Yeah, very, very good question actually, Tanvi. So this is the place where you do that post processing. In our entire architecture, we had one section called post processing and business rule, right? So this is where we enforce that. Once we get these results out, right, we check the confidence, for each particular field, if it is having some particular threshold, right? And if it is below that, then you can bring something like this validation station for validation. As part of this demo, I'm directly putting it here, but in the real case, you'll be checking those criterias.
Thank
Very
you.
good question.
Can we pass that confidence score in the config, or should we do it here?
So the confidence score, like your threshold, right? Like 70% or 80%, we can define that in your config, and you can make it, your workflow, like in a generic way that you're referring your value from your config file. And if it is, if it is coming below that threshold level, you can put up a task for human.
Yeah, usually it is between 0 to 1 they give there, right? In the
Yeah.
But here we would call a variable and give like if it is only 0.7%, then we can call it in the AI actual present
Yeah.
validation.
Absolutely.
You gave the classification in the classification scope. There's a document type ID or the classification result, right? So since it is an array of results, you said I should I use it as classification results of 0? And there's also document type ID where I get it from my taxonomy JSON. So how we have to use both of them? Like,
Very good question. Let me get back to that. So I'm just running this sequence so that I can just show you all the confidence score, how it is coming up into my Excel file. After that, I can just show you about your two different ways, right, of how we can pass the classification result. Okay. Yeah. So coming to your question, in my extraction, I got two options, right? One in which I can take up the classification result that is there in the loop, and another one is the document type ID. So now, in a given case scenario where you have only one document, you're solving a problem only for one document. At that point, you can directly hard code this with document type ID, whatever you're coming from a taxonomy. But in the case of when you're dealing with multiple documents in a single framework, at that point, you have to put your classification result. Hope that answers your question.
yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to this project directory, and let me open up that Excel file that just got generated. So if you notice, there are two different tables that is created. One is the simple field and the simple field formatted. And along with the each different fields, right, there is one more column associated, which is telling me about the confidence level, right? And with the confidence level, since I had check marked both of them, the extraction confidence and the OCR confidence, that I'm getting both of them, right? So now you can use this confidence score for your post-processing logic. So let us, resume back. And I think with a matter of time, we can proceed with the final part, that is the machine learning based extractor. Resist extractor, you can explore, it is quite simple as what we did right now. Only the thing is you have to build a regular expression. And with that, you'll be able to get the information extracted. But the final piece that is the most important one is the machine learning extractor. Now, in order to use that, you have to install a package called document understanding ML activities.
I have one question. After exporting, right, again, if there is there are errors or something, we will retrain everything, right? So is this the same procedure again we have to follow for again retraining?
Yeah, similarly, I will quickly show you that activity as well, through which
Sure.
you can retrain your machine learning models. So retraining is basically done for your ML based approaches. Like whenever you're dealing with your ML model, then only you can do your retraining. But whenever you're doing something like a form or the regex based extractor, there is no scope of retraining.
Okay. Oh, so you're saying again we have to do it in the AI center, and then we can call the ML skill here and do it.
For your machine learning, always you can do that retraining. I will just show you quickly how it is. So
Thanks.
let us simply create one taxonomy for our invoices. Or create a group for finance. Inside finance, I can create a category for bills. Then set bills. Let me create one document type for invoice. And for now, let us extract only few fields. Let's go with invoice number, and we can call it as text. Let's call out for billing address, and we call it as address type. And we can call it out for vendor name. And if you notice here, there is one more data type called name. So basically what this data type will do, it will give you uh, the breakdown of your name, like first name, last name, right? So let us employ this. And finally, uh, let's go on with the billing phone. Put it as text. Okay. One more thing that you can do here is this all are actually a regular field, but in invoices, basically it can contain your line items, right? It can contain the different items that you're purchasing. So for that, you have to create a table level field. So let us create one table level field, and basically in your table level field, you will be containing different columns, right? So one we can create for description. Another we can create, for now I'm just creating one for line item amount. Okay. So my taxonomy is done. The next thing is I just need to update my template for classification. And it's quite simple. I have to give some invoices for training. For now, I'll be giving only 3, but you can give as many number of invoices you want. Right? Click on save, and in configure classifiers, I just have to enable this to look up for intelligent keyword classifier. And finally, I just have to update my extractor, right? So in this, I'll be using the machine learning extractor. So I can come here and search for extractor, use the machine learning extractor. Okay. And there are two ways in which you can go about this one. One is leveraging the endpoint that the UiPath already gives. There are some endpoints that is already comes pre-trained. For example, I can put this in the chat as well. So here you get to know about the pre-trained ML packages, right? You can directly leverage those endpoints. Okay, so in this case, I'm dealing with invoice. So I can make use of this endpoint of invoices, and there are pretty much of other document as well. There are your ID cards, your financial statement, things like that. You can leverage those endpoints. Okay. So in that, you don't need to train anything. You don't need to set up anything in your AI center. All you have to do is use those endpoints. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a doubt here. Uh, in case while training, if it is not a pre-built ML model, then can we go ahead and use the document understanding ML model?
Yeah,
Uh,
obviously.
okay. Also, can two different document types be trained with the same document understanding ML model?
When you say two different document type, is it of the same invoice or is it like
No,
invoice?
it is two different with different fields that will have to be extracted.
Yeah. So in that case, you need to create two different, this machine learning models.
So we'll have to download two different, we will have to download the packages twice and then train it with a different set of documents, is it?
Yeah. So let me show you that as well. So
Okay.
basically in UiPath, you get something called out of box model, right? And let's say your document fits under that out of box model, right? You can leverage that pre-built out of box model and you can retrain on them. But let's suppose you're dealing something with the new document, like let's say police reports. police report is not a pre-trained document. At that time, you need to leverage the generic document understanding model, and you have to retrain on them.
So if there are two such documents, we can use the same DU for the two different documents, right?
Yeah, you will be leveraging that out-of-box models.
Okay.
So where you can find all this information is if you go to your AI Center project, right? If you get here, so this is your AI Center, okay? Let me give a quick tour of what this is all about. First of all, you'll be creating your data set, okay? You'll be creating your folder here, okay? And after that, you'll be coming here and you'll be doing your document labeling, okay? Now, if you are dealing with something that comes like your invoices or receipts, right? You can directly go ahead and use the out-of-box models. You can go to this ML packages, okay? You can go to this out-of-box packages. And inside this, if you get into your developer document understanding, right? Here you get all the list of models that is available as of today. Okay. Let's suppose your document is your W2 document. You can leverage this document. You can, retrain on this for your custom, fields. Okay. But let's say if it is all totally a new document, you can leverage the generic document understanding, this one. This is a very generic model. So you can, retrain on this particular one.
So can we use the same model twice?
If it is a completely different document, right? So we'll be using two different ML packages.
Okay. Okay, got it. Thanks, Vinod.
Yeah. Okay. So after you have, created your ML package, you can get ahead with your document labeling. So document labeling is a part where you train your machine learning model, where you annotate your given documents for your given data set, right? Now, how you actually go about that is, let me show you one. You create a session here. And this will open up a document manager interface. So basically here, what you have to do is you have to define all your fields you want to extract, right? You want to define all your line items. Okay, and once that is done, you will be annotating your data. Let me check if I already have some pre-built document labeling available.
I have another doubt here in the labeling as well, So regarding the checkbox only, if you see that in the data labeling, there's no option of Boolean variable here. In that case, what would the variable type be here while, labeling for checkboxes?
Very good question here. So currently, as of today, for the AI center approach, you don't have an option like what you get in your form is up, extractor for marking those checkboxes, right? But the other workaround will be, you annotate that, right? And then you figure out from your, from your extract, from your post-processing logic, if any value is present in there or not.
I mean, in cases of checkboxes like a tick mark or an into mark, that is not possible through labeling, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to know that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
For
Vinod.
now, it is not available as part of your AI center approaches.
Yeah, so we can use that. I mean, in that case, we could use for that alone using form extractor. Is
Yeah.
that a possibility?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So this is one of the such, data labeling which I've done in the past. So you can define your different, line item, sorry, your regular fields here and line items in the top. And how you actually go about it, the labeling is, let's suppose you're selecting this vendor name, right? You have to select that particular text, right? And the vendor name, you can see this keyword N, right? So I have to select N from my keyboard. If I select N from the keyboard, this particular keyword will be annotated for my regular field vendor name. So similarly, I'll be doing this annotation, right? Now, one another capability, like if you don't want to do all of these things, right, manually, this is a very tedious work. Let's suppose you're doing the data labeling for 300 documents. You have to spend all your weeks in doing this, right? Or if you're having, let's say, more than 20 different fields, it will be a nightmare. So in that case, what you can go with is if you have this functionality called predict. Now, this is where the Gen AI comes into your document understanding. What you can do is you can click on this generative predict, and it will automatically, all the fields will be automatically labeled. All you have to do is you have to cross check if the given data labeling is perfect or not.
In case of custom fields, would this predict work, or we'll have to manually label it?
Yeah, so good question. So you actually have two different options here. One called as model predict, another called as generative predict. In the case of generative predict, it will work even on the custom fields.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Because if you see here, this billing phone, it is a custom field. It doesn't comes up with the invoice model.
Yes.
Right. So it will take up a bit time. So what you actually do here from here is you actually export this all your labeled data set, right? And once you export them, it will land up in your data set, in your AI center data set. Okay. And once it is landed here, the next thing that you do is you come to your pipeline, right? You create a new pipeline and you train them. Okay.
Uh, Sorry for a minute. So suppose if I'm having different kind of invoices, so I'm still doing the data labeling, and then after it's going to the data set, right? So suppose if I'm having a new kind of template, right, and I have trained through the data labeling. So once I'll be exporting, it will go to the data set uh, uh, at the same time, right?
Yeah. Like whenever you click on that export, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will be exported. Let me show you that it will be exporting as a different folder structure in your data set. For example, if you take this one, right? Now inside this export, there is a different subfolder. Inside that, you can see this one. And let's suppose you are exporting it for the second time, it will create one more folder, and inside that, you'll be seeing all these results.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Daniela.
Hey, I have a question about the maybe right structure of how to start a project. When I'm doing the initial data labeling, so I want to split it into train and evaluation data. But it goes to the same export folder, for example, and then when I do retraining, it still retrieves everything from the same folder. Would that be the best practice to handle this, or should I split it into different dataset folders?
So whenever you're dealing with some, evaluation data set, right in the data manager, right, you get an option to treat that as an evaluate data set, right?
Yeah. I'm doing it this way. Everything is exported, but I'm just asking if it would be right to split it in some sort of way to my initial data set, and then to have like a separated folder to retraining, or I need to have it all in the same place all the time. And I'm talking about if I want to automate the retraining.
Yeah, like you can put them into the same file itself. The only thing is whenever you're dealing with evaluation, just mark that as a evaluation data set. And whenever you're running the pipeline, right, the system is capable enough to, treat that data set as an evaluate data set, and, it will run the evaluation on top of that.
Mm-hmm. So it's gonna take all the information that I already have, and
Yeah.
and every training that I'm doing, it's still gonna take all the data that I had before, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So you can come here for training purpose. Uh, you can select this as a training run. Evaluation run, let's suppose if you want to evaluate model, then you can go with your evaluation run. Then you can give your pipeline a name, training pipeline, and you can select your your baseline ML package. And after that, you'll be choosing your major version. In this case, UiPath has 23.7.2 as a major version, and the minor version you can get about with the this one is already trained. That's the reason I'm getting one. But in your case, if you're not any retraining, if it is the first time, then it will go with the zero. And in the input data set, you have to specifically select the data set you are exported, right? So in this case, you need to select, the one that you actually exported. And once that is done, you have to click on create. And
Uh,
you
Sorry to interrupt. While choosing the minor version, is it better to retrain it? While retraining, is it better to retrain using the base version that's zero or with the latest version?
Yeah, as per the recommendation practice, you can go with the base version as zero because it will contain the previous version of your runs, right?
Previous train
Yeah,
details as well. Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
And once your, the pipeline is, it takes up some more time, like some hours, because I'm not using GPU. And once it is done, uh, you can create your ML skill. And
Uh, Interrupt. When will the pipeline status will be failed? Like the reasons to be failed? Because I have done this one of the ML skill. I've given everything perfectly, but the status is failed.
it can be on multiple reasons, right? It can be very much unique. Sometimes due to the lack of AI units, also it will fail. Sometimes we're not having enough data set, also it will fail, right? What you can do is you can go to this ML logs and you can check your logs of your pipeline run, and you can check what is the exact training or what is the exact reasons.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And finally, once you have this ML skill created here, right, the next thing is you can directly get into your document understanding workflow, and you can leverage that ML skill, right? So in this case, I'm using the endpoint, but let's suppose if I want to use the ML skill here, right, I need to have the robot connected to the right tenant, and it will give me an option of leveraging that ML skill. And I need to click on configure extractors for one final time. And here, for each particular field, right, I have to map from what I'm getting from my ML model. Okay. So invoice number will be the invoice number. Billing address will be the billing address. Vendor name. Billing phone number. If you notice, billing phone number, it is a custom field. It doesn't comes with the ML package. But I've trained my document just so it can analyze that billing phone number. And similar with my line items as well, I can define the column fields and click save. And we can run this execution for our invoice. Okay, the classification started. Okay, so right now we have the validation station right from our extraction. And if I can just go through this, the invoice number is fine. And all this is coming directly from my machine learning model, right? And also the confidence score. So the address also looks good. The vendor name also looks fine. And the billing phone number, it was a custom field and it was able to recognize it. So this is also fine. And when it comes to line items, also I see, it was able to extract pretty much everything. So submit. And this all was coming from the ML skill that I trained, right? That I trained on my custom documents. And let's look into the results. Yeah. So one more actually pointer to note here. So the billing address, if you know what is the difference between the simple fields and simple fields formatted. So the simple fields will actually give the extraction from your given machine learning model. Like it will give you the exact same information, right? But in the simple fields formatted, it will format you based on the data type you're choosing. So here I've selected the address as a data type address, right? So that's the reason it gave me a complete breakdown of my address. And the items will contain all the line item information. Similarly, the items formatted will contain the line item information. So that was our entire document understanding, right from, we the last 1 hour, we have built the complete DO framework right from the scratch. And if you have noticed, we were able to build a solution for my form 40X, which was a structural document, and also for invoices. I have done pretty much of the steps of the invoices beforehand, but I've just showed you how you need to go ahead and create your machine learning models in your AI center. But in our next upcoming session, we'll be having a dedicated time of how you need to, train your machine learning model. What will be the best practices? So you can, get the most of the best practices of how you need to get up your machine learning model in our upcoming session. But as part of today's session, if you have any questions, we can address that for now.
I have a question. This is Santosh here. During the validation, can we make any of the field as mandatory that validator should not skip that particular field? He should validate that particular field.
Yeah. So what you can do is two ways to do that, right? One is after you do your extraction, you can check your fields if it is null or if it has some value. The other way is you have a latest feature called extraction rules. Like when you're defining your taxonomy, right? You can define if it is a mandatory field or not. And if it is, if it is not mandatory, it will throw you some business exception. By catching that, you can put up some logic in place.
And in data labeling, there was a option for classified fields. So, what is the use of that feature? So that option, the classification field in the data labeling.
Yeah. So there
What?
may be some times when your certain fields maybe not actually there in your document. Like let's suppose your currency, when you're dealing with invoices, currency can be INR, can be GBP, can be euros. It can be anything, right? But it will be not implicitly there.
Right.
At that point, you need to know how, what is the type of currency, right? So for that, you define your classification
Oh,
field.
okay. So it is not for segregating or uh, categorizing the different type of files in different buckets. It's not like that. It's for the field which is not available, just to catch that particular field, the feature is for that. Or we can separate the files based on the formats or based on the type of files. We can use that classification field.
So the classification field is for a field level, not on for a document level. If you want to do a document level, then it's a whole different concept, right? But for a field level, let's say, best example is the currency. It will be different for different one, right? So for that reason, you will be defining a currency as a classification field.
Okay. And one last question that in the validation, all the invoices are going through the validation, or is there any process that we can pass the invoices through STP, the straight through processing, means without going the validations, if the accuracy is 100% and it can directly extract and go to the download folder without going through the validation window?
Yeah, so over there, you need to put up some post-processing logic. So if you open up the DU framework that comes in, right? So here you have an option where you can put up your extraction rules. For different type of document, currently it comes up for invoice and receipts. There is some business rule that is already there. If it is matching that business rule, then it will go ahead. If not, it will send it out to a human to validate.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, any other questions? You can unmute and you can take it up.
Yeah, what is the use of action center?
So yeah, Action Center is basically used like whenever you're dealing with the AI center use cases, right? Your model comes up with some prediction, and the prediction may not be 100% certain. At that point, depending on your confidence level, you may need to check if your document is not getting up to a threshold confidence level, like let's say 80%, you can send it out to a human to validate, human to correct those mistakes, right? So that's the reason why we need to have an action center. So what this document understanding framework will do, it will check if that extraction and the confidence level is matching your rules and your thresholds, and depending on that, it will create a task in the action center, right?
Okay.
And whenever user is available, it can get forward and you can validate their task. And whenever he submits, the rest of the part automatically continues.
And like in the starting, you just said like AI use cases. So what is, what is this? I mean, how we can create it?
So the AI use case, first of all, you need to understand the need, why we need to have an AI use case.
Yeah, please.
So right now we were dealing with invoices and there were 30 different formats of invoice. So it will be not a rightfully scalable approach to create 30 different format templates, because in future another 20 can come. So instead of that, you can leverage the machine learning model.
Okay.
The machine learning model comes pre-built in the AI center. You can leverage them, right? So that's where your AI, center use cases will come into picture.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for answering. And I will, go through once again, then I will understand. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. So again, thanks everyone for joining in. Uh, if you like this session, I hope so. And if it was much more informative, you can actually share your word in your LinkedIn and you can tag, UiPath community. You can tag Mukesh, me, and Rohit. And going forward, we'll be having some more detailed session on how you need to train your machine learning model and what are the different practical use cases that we have in our upcoming days. So if you're not already registered for our upcoming days, please register, because each one has an individual registration. And the recording and the slides and everything will be there available on the registration page of day 2. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining in. Mukesh, you are there? You want to add some closing thoughts?
Can you share the files?
Yeah, I will add it up.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, Mukesh, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Okay,
There is no
anyways.
Menti for this entire session.
Sorry?
There is no Menti questions for this entire session.
Menti question.
Mentimeter earlier we were using, like.
Okay. Uh, I'm not quite sure about that. But again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I wish you all a great rest part of your day, and we can catch up tomorrow. Bye bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.